The smell of vanilla and burnt sugar filled my tiny apartment kitchen. As I stared at the resignation letter on my laptop screen, one click would end my suffocating 5-year career in corporate accounting and launch me into the unknown world of professional baking. My finger hovered over the mouse. "You're making a huge mistake, Malia." My mother's voice echoed in my head. The same words she'd been repeating since I first mentioned quitting my job 3 months ago. "I'm Malia, and I've spent my entire life being told that my dreams were half-baked. But today, something was different. Maybe it was the way my latest batch of French macarons turned out perfect. Or perhaps it was the memory of my grandmother teaching me to bake my first chocolate chip cookies when I was 7. My phone buzzed. "Speaking of Mother Dearest, Malia, your father and I were talking." Mom started without a hello. "There's an opening in his firm's accounting department. Much better salary than your current position." I watched my timer count down the seconds until my experimental lavender shortbread needed to come out. "Mom, we've been through this. I'm not interested in another accounting job. Honey, this hobby of yours." "It's not a hobby," I cut in, pulling the shortbread from the oven. The buttery floral aroma filled my kitchen. "My Instagram account has over 50,000 followers. I made more from my Valentine's Day pre-orders than I did in 2 months at my current job." "Internet followers don't equal a stable career, sweetie. What about your MBA? All that money we spent on your education?" I set the shortbread aside to cool. "I'm using my MBA. Marketing, financial planning, business strategy. It's all part of building my brand." "Building your brand," she scoffed. "Listen to yourself. Your sister Athena just made partner at her law firm. Truman's about to close that huge real estate deal. Even Daisy is getting her PhD. And you want to bake cookies." The familiar knot formed in my stomach. I'd heard variations of this speech my entire life. Starting with the Christmas, I asked for an easy bake oven and got a calculator instead. My phone beeped. Another order notification. "Mom, I have to go. I have orders to fill. Just promise me you'll think about the position at your father's firm." "Goodbye, Mom." I hung up and leaned against my counter, closing my eyes. "You're really doing this, huh?" I opened my eyes to find Frankie, my best friend and fellow entrepreneur, letting herself in with her spare key. She ran a successful graphic design business and had been my biggest cheerleader. "I think I have to," I said, gesturing to my kitchen covered in cooling racks and mixing bowls. "I can't keep pretending to care about quarterly reports when all I think about is recipe development." Frankie picked up a warm shortbread cookie and took a bite. Her eyes widened. "Holy shit, Malia, these are incredible. New recipe. The lavender's from that organic farm outside the city. Screw your family's opinions. You have to do this full time." She grabbed another cookie. "What's holding you back?" I glanced at my laptop, the resignation letter still waiting to be sent. What if they're right? What if I'm throwing away everything I worked for? Frankie crossed her arms. "Show me your order spreadsheet." I pulled up the document I'd been meticulously maintaining. Row after row of orders, each representing someone willing to pay premium prices for my creations. "Now show me your soul-crushing corporate job spreadsheet." I switched to my work screen. Endless columns of numbers that made my eyes glaze over. "Which one makes you smile?" she asked. The answer was obvious. I looked at my phone, still buzzing with order notifications. Then at the kitchen, where I'd spent countless happy hours perfecting recipes. Finally, I turned to my laptop and moved the cursor over the send button on my resignation email. "Do it," Frankie urged. "Be the badass baker you were meant to be." I took a deep breath and clicked. The email whooshed away, and with it, the weight of others' expectations lifted from my shoulders. "Well," I said, reaching for my apron, "I guess I better start planning the launch of Peacemaker's Bakery." Frankie raised an eyebrow. "Peacemakers?" I smiled, tying the apron strings. "Because everything's better after sharing something sweet. Even family drama." My phone rang again. My father this time. I silenced it and reached for the flour container. I had orders to fill, a website to build, and a dream to pursue. Let them doubt. Their words couldn't hurt me anymore. I had cookies to bake. 2 weeks after quitting my job, I stood in my newly rented commercial kitchen space, staring at my first major disaster. What should have been perfect red velvet cupcakes looked more like deflated rubber balls. This is what happens when you chase pipe dreams. My sister Athena's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard her come in. How did you find me? I asked, not turning around. Mom and Dad are worried sick. They asked me to talk some sense into you. She walked around the steel prep table, her designer heels clicking on the tile floor. This doesn't look very promising. I scraped the failed batch into the trash. It's called recipe testing, Athena. Every successful product has failures along the way. Product, these are cupcakes, not pharmaceuticals. She wrinkled her nose at the mess. Come on, Malia. This little rebellion has gone far enough. I grabbed fresh ingredients from my supplies. This isn't a rebellion. It's my business. I've already got 3 wedding orders booked for next month. At what, $20 a cake? That won't even cover your rent. My phone pinged with a notification. Frankie had finished the logo design for Peacemaker's Bakery, a simple, elegant peace sign made of whisk and rolling pin. I smiled, ignoring Athena's judgmental stare. Try these, I said, pulling yesterday's successful test batch from the fridge. Lavender vanilla with honey buttercream. I don't eat sugar, she replied, but her eyes lingered on the perfectly swirled frosting. One bite won't kill your career, counselor. She hesitated, then took a tiny bite. Her eyes widened slightly. The closest thing to approval I'd seen from her in years. Fine, they're good, she admitted. But good doesn't pay the bills. The kitchen door swung open, and Frankie burst in, waving her phone. Malia, you need to see this. She shoved her phone in my face, showing a video of me demonstrating my signature rainbow marble cake technique. The view count was climbing past 50,000. It went viral overnight. People are asking where they can order. Athena peered at the screen. People actually watch videos about cake decorating? 2 million people watched someone pop bubble wrap last week, Frankie replied. This is actually useful content. I was already pulling up my business Instagram account. The followers had doubled since yesterday, and my inbox was flooded with inquiries. This is exactly what we needed, Frankie said, pulling out her laptop. I'll update the website to handle the traffic. You keep baking. You have a website? Athena asked, sounding almost impressed despite herself. Full e-commerce platform, I replied, measuring ingredients for a new batch. Frankie designed it. We've been working on this launch for months. Months? While you were still at the firm? Some of us can handle more than one thing at a time. I cracked eggs into my mixer. Not everyone needs to bill 80 hours a week to feel successful. Athena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then back at me. Dad's asking if you've come to your senses yet. Tell him I'm too busy building my empire to answer. The mixer whirred to life, drowning out her response. Hours later, after Athena left and the kitchen was filled with perfectly risen red velvet cupcakes, Frankie showed me the final website analytics. 300 orders in one day, she said. Still think this is just a hobby? I stared at the numbers, my hands trembling slightly. I'm going to need help. Already on it. She pulled up another screen. Remember Carlos, the guy who owns that restaurant supply company? He's interested in partnering. Says he can handle logistics if you focus on production and content creation. Carlos, the one who offered to mentor small food businesses. The same. He saw your video and recognized the potential. He's offering warehouse space, delivery infrastructure, everything you need to scale. I sat down hard on a nearby stool. This is really happening, isn't it? It's happening because you made it happen. Frankie started packing up the day's successful batches. You should send a box of these to your family. Let them taste their words. I thought about it, then shook my head. Not yet. When I send them something, it'll be when I'm so successful they can't possibly dismiss it. My phone lit up with another call from my parents. Instead of answering, I opened my recipe book and started planning tomorrow's bakes. The orders were piling up, and I had a point to prove. "Ready to shoot another video?" Frankie asked, setting up her camera. I tied on a fresh apron and smiled. "Let's show them what chasing dreams really looks like." The mixer hummed back to life, and with it, my determination grew stronger. Success, I was learning, tasted sweeter than any cake I could bake. 3 months into running Peacemaker's Bakery, I barely recognized my life. The commercial kitchen now hummed with activity. 4 assistant bakers working in synchronized chaos while I filmed content for our growing social media presence. "And that's how you achieve the perfect mirror glaze," I said to the camera, finishing a demonstration on a dark chocolate entremet. "Don't forget to tag us in your attempts." "Cut," Frankie called. "That's going to blow up like the last one." Carlos walked in as we were reviewing the footage, his presence commanding attention as always. "Speaking of blowing up, have you seen today's numbers?" I shook my head, hands deep in cookie dough for the next batch. "Your Valentine's collection pre-orders hit 6 figures in 2 hours." The dough slipped from my hands. "What?" He slid his tablet across the steel counter, showing me the dashboard. The numbers made my head spin. "This is why I'm here," he continued. "We need to talk about expansion, real expansion, not just adding another oven." My phone buzzed. My mother, right on schedule, with her weekly dose of concern. I declined the call. "Still not talking to them?" Frankie asked, packing up her camera equipment. "They still think this is a phase." I turned to Carlos. "What kind of expansion are we talking about?" He pulled up blueprints on his tablet. "There's a vacant bakery space downtown. Prime location, full storefront, professional kitchen already installed. Previous owners retiring. Storefront?" My heart raced. That's a huge step. A necessary one. Your online presence is solid, but people want to experience the brand in person, smell the baking, see the decorating, taste things fresh from the oven. The bell rang as someone entered through the back door. I looked up to see my younger sister Daisy, clutching one of our signature boxes. "These are incredible," she said, holding up a half-eaten lavender shortbread. "I bought them through your website. Had to see for myself what all the fuss was about." "You paid?" I asked, surprised. The family usually avoided anything connected to my phase. "Of course I paid. I'm not Mom." She glanced around the kitchen, taking in the professional setup. "This is impressive." Carlos cleared his throat. "I'll leave you to think about the storefront, but don't take too long. Property like this doesn't stay available forever." After he left, Daisy helped herself to another cookie. "So that's your business partner? The one Mom keeps calling that enabler?" "Carlos has been amazing," I said, returning to my cookie dough. "He believes in what we're building here." "Unlike some people," Frankie muttered, earning a small smile from Daisy. "Actually," Daisy said, lowering her voice, "that's kind of why I'm here. Have you talked to anyone in the family lately?" "Not since they staged their intervention last month." I started portioning the dough. I especially enjoyed Dad's PowerPoint presentation on small business failure rates. "Yeah, about that." Daisy fidgeted with her empty cookie bag. "Things aren't great at home." "When are they ever?" "No, I mean financially. Dad's firm lost some major clients, and Athena's law firm is downsizing. They're struggling." I stopped mid-scoop. "How bad?" "Bad enough that Mom's selling her jewelry. Bad enough that they're considering downsizing the house." She met my eyes. "Bad enough that they might need help, but they're too proud to ask, especially from you." The irony wasn't lost on me. For years they'd insisted I was one bad decision away from financial ruin. And now, "Does anyone else know you're here?" I asked. "No. But Malia, I've seen your success. These products, this kitchen, you're following. You've built something real here. Something they were too blind to see." My phone buzzed again. Another order notification, then another and another. Speaking of success, Frankie called from her laptop. "That glaze video we just shot, it's already at 50,000 views." I looked around my kitchen, at the professional equipment, the staff efficiently working. the boxes of orders waiting for delivery. Then at Daisy, who was watching me with a mixture of admiration and hope. Tell me about this storefront again, I called to Carlos, who was still within earshot. He poked his head back in. Want to see it in person? I nodded, untying my apron. Daisy, want to come see what your big sister's really capable of? Her face lit up. Really, really. And maybe afterward, you can tell me more about what's happening at home. As we left the kitchen, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. Flour-dusted and focused, I looked nothing like the corporate accountant I'd been just months ago. I looked like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. And soon my family would know it too. And this is the master suite, the realtor said, leading me into a sun-filled bedroom with floor-to-ceiling windows, complete with a private balcony overlooking the garden. I stepped onto the balcony, breathing in the spring air. 6 months ago, I'd been living in a cramped apartment with a kitchen barely big enough for a toaster. Now I was touring my dream home, one that actually had space for both living and recipe development. My phone buzzed, Athena's name flashing on the screen. I ignored it. The kitchen, of course, is the highlight. The realtor continued, leading me downstairs. Professional-grade appliances, double ovens, and she trailed off as my phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I'm so sorry, I said, pulling it out. 6 missed calls from Athena, 3 from Truman, and a dozen text messages. My heart dropped. Take all the time you need, the realtor said, stepping away discreetly. I called Athena back. Finally, she answered. Where are you? House hunting. What's wrong? House. Never mind. Can you come to Mom and Dad's? Now? I'm kind of in the middle of something. Dad had a heart attack. The world tilted sideways. What? He's stable, she added quickly. But Mom's falling apart. Please, Malia, whatever issues we have, just please come. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my parents' driveway, noting how the usually immaculate lawn needed mowing. Inside, I found Mom sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a stack of papers. Mom? She looked up, her face drawn. Malia, I didn't expect. Who called you? Athena, how's Dad? Resting upstairs. The doctor said it was stress-induced. She shuffled the papers. Everything's stress-induced these days. I glanced at the papers, medical bills, past due notices, mortgage statements. My mother quickly gathered them up. You don't need to see these. You have your own concerns. Mom, stop. Daisy told me things were tough. Daisy shouldn't have. Why didn't you tell me? She laughed bitterly. Tell you what? That your father's firm is hemorrhaging clients. That we might lose the house? That we were wrong about everything. Footsteps on the stairs interrupted us. Truman appeared, looking exhausted. Dad's asking for you, he told Mom. Then he noticed me. Oh, you came. Of course I came. I watched Mom hurry upstairs. How bad is it really? Truman slumped into a chair. Remember how Dad always said the firm was recession-proof? Turns out it wasn't pandemic-proof, or crypto crash-proof, or whatever the hell else has gone wrong this year. And Athena? Her firm's laying off half the junior partners next month. She's trying to act tough, but he shrugged. You're the only one of us actually doing well right now. Ironic, huh? I thought about the house I'd been about to make an offer on. The storefront Carlos and I had signed the lease for yesterday. The profits sitting in my business account. Malia, Dad's voice, called weakly from upstairs. I found him propped up in bed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Mom sat beside him, clutching his hand. Hey, Dad, your mother says you're buying a house, he said, attempting his usual authoritative tone, but failing. I was looking at one. Yes. Must be doing well then, with your baking. The way he said it, like it still pained him to acknowledge it, made something snap inside me. Yes, Dad, my baking business that you all mocked. It's doing extremely well. Well enough to buy a house cash. Well enough to open a storefront downtown. Well enough to help if you'd just swallow your pride and ask. Malia, Mom warned. No, let her finish, Dad said, surprising us both. You're right. We were wrong. About all of it. I was wrong. And now look at us, the accountant, the lawyer, the real estate agent, all struggling. While you, he gestured vaguely, you followed your passion, against all our judgment, and succeeded. Is this a heart attack confession? I asked, trying to lighten the moment. He almost smiled. Consider it a belated recognition of your capabilities. My phone buzzed, Frankie, probably with updates about the storefront renovation. But for once, I let it go to voicemail. Get some rest, Dad, I said, heading for the door. We can talk about everything else later. Malia, Mom called after me. Are you really doing that well? I turned back. Come by the new shop next week. See for yourself. As I left, I heard Truman say, Did you know she has over 1 million followers now? I smiled, pulling out my phone to call the realtor. It was time to make an offer on that house, and maybe, just maybe, help my family remember what really matters. The bell above the storefront door chimed as my family filed in, one by one. Mom, looking uncertain. Dad, still pale, but walking steadily. Athena, trying to appear unimpressed. Truman, openly curious. Daisy, barely containing her excitement. Welcome to Peacemaker's Bakery, I said, gesturing to the gleaming display cases, filled with colorful macarons, artisan pastries, and signature cupcakes. The afternoon sun streamed through the front windows, catching the gold lettering on the wall. Life is what you bake of it. This is unexpected, Mom said, taking in the sophisticated interior design. What were you expecting? A card table and some Betty Crocker mixes. The words came out sharper than intended. Dad touched one of the marble countertops. How much did all this cost? Less than your country club membership, I replied, moving behind the counter. And it's already paid for itself 3 times over. Athena picked up one of our branded gift boxes. These are the ones I keep seeing all over Instagram. 2 million followers now, Daisy chimed in. I checked this morning. Speaking of numbers, I said, pulling out a folder. Let's talk about why you're really here. Malia, Mom started. We didn't come for... Yes, you did. I laid out the papers. Their mortgage statement, Dad's medical bills, Athena's severance package details. Daisy told me everything, and I've had my accountant look it over. You have an accountant? Truman asked. I have a whole team. Turns out, when you run a successful business, you need help managing it. I met each of their eyes, just like you need help now. Dad sank into one of the cafe chairs. We shouldn't have come. Carlos, I called toward the kitchen. Bring out the special order. He emerged with a towering cake, each tier showcasing a different technique I'd mastered over the years. The bottom layer featured the marble effect that first went viral. The middle displayed the mirror glaze that launched our luxury line. The top showed the hand-painted flowers that had become our signature. Your first order was for 50 cupcakes, I said, cutting into the cake. You told me I was wasting ingredients. Now we ship thousands of orders weekly. I placed a slice in front of each of them. You said social media wasn't a real marketing strategy. Now major brands pay us for partnerships. Malia, we understand, Athena began. No, you don't. Not yet. I served the final slice. This cake represents everything you dismissed, every dream you mocked, every time you said I was making a mistake. Try it. Mom took the first bite. Her eyes widened. This is... She paused, taking another bite. This is extraordinary. One by one, they tasted the cake. Even Athena couldn't hide her appreciation. The thing about baking, I continued, is that it teaches you about karma. Put in bad ingredients, you get bad results. Rush the process, it falls flat. Try to fake it, people can taste the difference. I pulled out another document, my offer to help them. I'm willing to help with Dad's medical bills and the mortgage, but I have conditions. Of course you do, Athena muttered. First, you all spend 1 week working in my kitchen. Not baking, I wouldn't trust you with that. But seeing what real work looks like. Second, you take a financial management course, the one you mocked me for suggesting last year. Dad looked down at his empty plate. And third, You admit, publicly, that you were wrong about me. About all of it. Silence fell over the cafe. Carlos busied himself wiping down already clean counters, pretending not to listen. That's quite a demand, Mom said carefully. Actually, Daisy spoke up, I think it's fair. You guys spent years telling everyone how Malia was throwing her life away. Maybe it's time to tell them the truth. Truman nodded slowly. She's right. We owe you that much, Malia. I can't work in a kitchen, Athena protested. I have interviews lined up. No, you have rejection letters lined up, I corrected. I've seen those too. Take the week, learn something new, maybe even learn to bake. Dad cleared his throat. And if we agree, I slid the document across the table. Then we start fresh, as equals, as family. They looked at each other, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, Mom reached for the paper. Where do we sign? I handed her a pen, rose gold, engraved with the Peacemaker's logo. As she signed, I caught Daisy's eye and winked. Welcome to the family business, I said, taking the signed document. You start tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't be late. As they left, looking both relieved and apprehensive, Carlos approached with a knowing smile. Think they'll last the week? I watched them through the window, already bickering about who would drive tomorrow. They better, because this time, I'm the one writing the rules. You're holding it wrong, I said, watching Mom struggle with the piping bag. Gentle pressure, remember. This is impossible, she complained, her once pristine blouse now dusted with powdered sugar. How do you do this all day? It was day 3 of their kitchen education, and surprisingly, they were still here. Dad was organizing shipping boxes with meticulous attention to detail. Truman had taken to inventory management like a natural. Even Athena had stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes. Again, I instructed Mom, think of it like signing your name. Smooth, continuous movement. She tried once more, and this time the buttercream swirled perfectly onto the cupcake. I did it, she exclaimed, sounding genuinely excited for the first time in years. Malia, look, not bad for a beginner, I smiled. Maybe there's hope for you yet. Frankie burst through the kitchen door, practically vibrating with energy. Malia, the morning show wants to interview you. Tomorrow. What? Several voices echoed at once. They saw our latest viral video, the one with the color-changing butterfly cookies. And they want to feature you as a rising entrepreneur. She waved her tablet. Live segment, prime morning slot. Dad looked up from his boxes. National television. The whole success story, Frankie continued. Local accountant turns baking empire founder. They specifically mentioned the family angle. The kitchen went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. Our deal would become public knowledge. Perfect timing, I said, wiping my hands on my apron. We can announce the expansion plans, too. Expansion plans? Athena asked. Carlos joined us, carrying architectural drawings. 3 new locations across the city, plus a dedicated shipping facility. He spread the plans across a clean counter. Malia's been planning this for months. Mom abandoned her piping practice to look at the drawings. This is extensive. This is business, I corrected. The kind you always wanted me to understand. Remember, speaking of business, Carlos said, the financial management instructor is here for their first session. My family exchanged nervous glances as a sharp-dressed woman entered the kitchen. Ready to learn how money actually works? She asked, setting up her laptop. We know how money works, Athena protested weakly. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Show her your investment portfolio, Dad. 3 hours later, they emerged from the conference room, looking shell-shocked. I had no idea we were so. Mom trailed off. Financially illiterate, I suggested, handing her a fresh cup of coffee. That's why this is part of the deal. The deal that's about to go public, Truman noted. Are you sure about this, Malia? I gestured around the bustling kitchen. Look around. Everything here exists because I stopped caring what people thought and started believing in myself. Maybe it's time you all did the same. But the humiliation, Athena started, is nothing compared to what you put me through. I cut in. Besides, people love redemption stories. Trust me, I know my audience. Dad cleared his throat. About that, I've been watching your social media. The way you connect with people, build community, it's remarkable. Careful, Dad. That almost sounded like pride. It is pride, he said quietly. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Frankie, who'd been pretending not to eavesdrop, suddenly appeared with her camera. Say that again, but this time for our 2 million followers. Dad looked at Mom, who nodded slowly. Athena straightened her flour-dusted shirt. Truman and Daisy moved closer. Ready when you are, Frankie said, hitting record. Dad faced the camera, standing in my kitchen, surrounded by the success he'd once dismissed. My name is Albert, and I'm Malia's father. For years, I told my daughter that following her passion was a mistake. I was wrong. As he spoke, telling our story with surprising honesty, I watched my mother wipe away tears. Athena actually smiled. Daisy beamed with pride. And now, Dad concluded, we're learning from her about business, about courage, and yes, about baking. That's going viral for sure, Frankie whispered, stopping the recording. Good, I said, tossing aprons to my family, because we have 300 orders to fill before tomorrow's interview, and I expect everyone to help. 300, Mom's eyes widened. Welcome to my world, I grinned. Now who wants to learn how to make those color-changing butterflies? As they gathered around my workstation, eager despite their exhaustion, I caught Carlos's knowing smile. He'd seen this coming, how teaching them would change them, how working together would heal us. Remember, I said, demonstrating the technique, baking is about patience, precision, and passion. They finished in unison, and for the first time in years, we laughed together. And we're live in 5, 4, 3. The studio producer counted down silently with her fingers. The morning show host beamed at the camera. Welcome back. Today we're joined by social media sensation and founder of Peacemaker's Bakery, Malia, along with her family. Malia, your story has captured hearts nationwide. Tell us how it all started. I glanced at my family, sitting nervously in the studio audience. Dad nodded encouragingly. Well, Sarah, it started with a resignation letter and a whole lot of doubt, not from me, but from them. I gestured to my family. Would you believe my first business plan was written on the back of a failed recipe card? The host laughed. And now you're opening 3 new locations. But first, I understand your family has something to share. Dad stood up, microphone in hand. The same man who'd once presented PowerPoints about my inevitable failure now looked straight into the camera. We were wrong, he said, voice steady. For years, we dismissed Malia's passion as frivolous. We pushed her toward what we considered real careers. But when our own careers faltered, when we faced financial difficulties, guess who turned out to be the successful one? Mom wiped away tears as Athena took the microphone. I used to tell my law firm colleagues that my sister was going through a phase, she admitted. Now those same colleagues are ordering her custom wedding cakes and asking for business advice. Speaking of business, Sarah turned back to me. Your latest viral video showed your family working in your kitchen. Quite a change from their corporate backgrounds. Oh, you should have seen Mom's first attempt at piping frosting. I laughed. But they're learning. Dad's actually become our shipping logistics expert. It's like running a law firm, Dad interjected, except the clients are sweeter. The studio audience chuckled. But it wasn't all sweet moments, Sarah pressed. Your family had to face some hard truths about their finances, correct? I straightened in my chair. This was the moment of truth we'd discussed. Yes, I said firmly. And that's actually why I wanted to come on your show. Success isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about helping them learn from their mistakes. Which is why, Mom stood up, joining the conversation. We're announcing a new initiative through Peacemaker's Bakery. I nodded, feeling proud. This had been their idea, born from late nights in the kitchen. We're launching the Sweet Success program, I explained. Free financial literacy workshops, combined with business mentorship, hosted at our bakeries. Because everyone deserves a chance to follow their dreams, even if they need a little help managing the practical side. And who better to teach it, Truman added, than a family who learned it the hard way. Sarah leaned forward. So you're turning your family's journey into an opportunity to help others. That's what Peacemakers has always been about, I said. Building bridges, one dessert at a time. Speaking of desserts, Sarah gestured off stage, and Carlos wheeled out our latest creation, a towering display of our most popular items. These are all recipes my family once called hobby projects, I explained, standing to showcase the display. Each one represents a milestone in our journey. And now, Sarah asked, now they're part of a multi-million-dollar business. I turned to my family. Want to demonstrate what you've learned? They joined me at the display, each taking their position like we'd practiced. Mom perfectly piped a rose. Dad expertly packaged an order. Athena demonstrated our signature marble technique. Even Truman managed a decent French macaron. Incredible transformation, Sarah commented. Any final words for our viewers? I looked at my family, flour-dusted and proud. Then back at the camera. Dreams don't come with guarantees, I said. But neither do safe choices. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all. And sometimes, Dad added, putting his arm around me, your biggest critics become your biggest supporters, if you're brave enough to prove them wrong, and kind enough to let them learn. After the segment, as we gathered in the green room, Frankie burst in waving her phone. The Sweet Success Program website just crashed from too many sign-ups, she announced. And your follower count, it's exploding. But I wasn't looking at the numbers. I was watching my family, Mom and Dad, hugging. Athena actually smiling at her social media notifications. Truman and Daisy planning workshop content. So, I said, getting their attention. Ready for another week in the kitchen. Only if you promise to teach me that mirror glaze technique, Mom replied. Deal. I pulled out my phone, checking the day's orders. But first, we have 3 wedding cakes to finish, 200 macarons to box, and a viral video to shoot. Lead the way, boss, Athena said. And for once, there wasn't a hint of sarcasm in her voice. We headed back to the bakery, a family transformed by flour, failure, and finally, success. But the sweetest part, this was just the beginning. And the Entrepreneur of the Year award goes to, the announcer paused, building tension in the packed auditorium, Malia of Peacemaker's Bakery. The spotlight found me as applause erupted. I squeezed Mom's hand before standing, making my way to the stage in the dress Athena had helped me choose. My family occupied the entire front row, beaming with genuine pride. Thank you, I said, accepting the Crystal Award. But I'd like to share this moment with some special people. Mom, Dad, Athena, Truman, Daisy. Come up here. They looked surprised, but joined me on stage. Dad's tie was one of our branded ones, featuring tiny whisks and rolling pins. Mom wore the apron-inspired blazer from our merchandise line. Even Athena had traded her power suits for our signature style. When I started Peacemakers, these people thought I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I began. The audience chuckled. Now they run our Sweet Success program, which has helped launch over 50 small businesses. 73, Truman corrected into the microphone, earning more laughs. I keep the spreadsheets now. Remember when spreadsheets were the enemy? I teased. But this award isn't just about business success. It's about what happens when you give people room to change. I turned to my family. Dad, remember your first day in the kitchen? I organized the sprinkles by size and color, he admitted, grinning. Twice. Now he manages operations for all 5 locations. I told the audience. Mom went from burning cookies to teaching our advanced piping classes. Athena uses her legal expertise to help our Sweet Success graduates set up their businesses. Truman's financial workshops have a waiting list. And Daisy, I smiled at my younger sister. Daisy's opening her own branch next month. The audience applauded again. But the real victory, I continued, isn't in the numbers, it's in the moments. Like when Dad first admitted he was proud of me while covered in flour, or when Mom finally learned to pipe roses without shaking. When Athena started introducing me as my sister, the successful entrepreneur, instead of my sister, the baker. Carlos caught my eye from the wings, giving me a thumbs up. Frankie was live streaming everything, of course. Success is sweetest when shared, I said, wrapping up. So this award belongs to all of us, even the critics, especially the critics, because sometimes they become your biggest champions. Later, at the celebration party in our flagship store, I found Mom arranging a display of our signature peace sign cookies. Perfect spacing, I commented. You've learned well. I had a good teacher, she adjusted one cookie slightly. Though I still can't believe you let me near the displays after the Great Macaron disaster. Hey, those floor tiles needed replacing anyway. We laughed, remembering the day she'd dropped an entire speed rack of macarons. Instead of crying, she'd started making dough for a new batch immediately. Malia, she said softly, I never properly apologized. Mom, we've been through this. No, let me finish. She turned to face me. We were so focused on what we thought success looked like that we missed what it actually is. It's not about the title or the salary. It's about building something meaningful, creating joy, helping others. You knew that all along. Dad joined us, carrying a box of our latest creation, cupcakes that revealed a surprise design when you bit into them. Speaking of helping others, he said, guess who just graduated from our program? Remember Tommy from my old firm? The one who always wanted to open a food truck? The one you told to get real and stick to accounting? I asked. That's the one. His Korean fusion truck launches next week. He's already got 5 corporate lunch contracts. Athena hurried over, phone in hand. The video of your speech is trending. The comments are incredible. Listen to this one. Watching this family transform from critics to supporters gives me hope for my own dreams. That's what it's all about, I said, looking around the bustling store. Customers sampling treats, aspiring entrepreneurs, attending workshops in our learning space, family and friends celebrating together. Frankie appeared with a special delivery, my old resignation letter, now framed, for your office wall, she said. Right next to the award? Perfect. I took the frame, running my fingers over the glass. Though I think it needs company. Mom, didn't you say you kept all those rejection letters you wrote me? For the wall of transformation, she agreed, along with our first successful batch photos. And my PowerPoint about business failure rates, Dad added sheepishly. I looked at my family, really looked at them. No more judgment in their eyes, no more doubt in their posture, just pride, support, and yes, a little flour in their hair. Ready to start tomorrow's bake? I asked. They all reached for their aprons without hesitation. This was success, not measured in dollars or followers or awards, but in the sweet taste of acceptance, growth, and love. Plus, we still had those surprise center cupcakes to perfect.